and welcome to another episode of Twin Carbs. If you've been watching some of my previous videos, then hopefully you've liked and subscribed, and thanks to all of you who have subscribed already. It's absolutely fantastic. But if you've been watching any of them, you'll know that I've already done a couple of videos explaining the ins and outs of the MG ZS EV, which is what I'm driving now. What I haven't done up till now is done a video, and many of you have asked for it, on how the car is to drive. So today we're going to resolve that. I've just had a call from a client of mine who is based in Dundee, which is about 70 miles away from where I am just now. Now I need to pop up to Dundee and fix the problem for him. On the way there I need to go to the electrical factors to get some components, and but what I do know before we set out is that I do not have enough power left in the battery to get there and back. I'm currently sitting about 126 miles, so by the time I've used 70 of those to get there, I'll be down about the 50 mile mark. I know therefore that, either on the way there or on the way back, I'm going to have to top up the charge. So hopefully I'll be able to do that while I'm there, and while there is, hopefully there'll be a charger nearby that I can plug in and charge while I'm in seeing my customer. So that's the plan anyway. At the moment, as I said, I've got 126 miles. As soon as my steering wheel spoke gets out of the way, there we are. I'm currently getting about 3.3 miles per kilowatt. On the way there, I'll be using primarily Motorway, but in this first section I've got about 10 miles of rural environment to drive through on my way to the wholesalers. So it'll give us a reasonable comparison of what the car's like to drive, what it's like to handle, and what difference it will make between rural environments, windy, twisty country roads, etc., compared to Motorway for most of the journey. So at the moment, the settings I've got, I'm on normal, so there's a choice of economy, normal, or sport. Normal I find is fantastic for most things. Very rarely use economy, to be honest. Sport, tend only to use that when I'm turning off Audi A3s at traffic lights and stuff like that, which is great fun, because you don't expect that from an MG ZS. I'm also in KERS 3 at the moment. So KERS 3 is the highest level of regenerative braking, and I really like that when I'm driving, because it means you hardly ever need to use the brakes. I would tend to switch it down a bit when maybe I'm doing a long motorway drive, because when I lift off I don't want to decelerate necessarily as much or as quickly as I would, and there's no real need to do that, and therefore no real need to try and recharge the battery when you're on a motorway. So I think the car is really useful. It must have a massive saving on servicing costs, because you probably wouldn't need to change the brake pads for 3 years probably, depending on mileage you're doing, obviously. So that's good. But also, if I accelerate, for instance, up to this corner, I would normally need to start braking now. I don't in this car. I just ease off the accelerator. It slows down perfectly adequately and gets you around the corner. So it is quite a useful thing for the car. Obviously, you're putting a bit of juice back into the battery. Not a great deal, to be honest. Probably about, if you were going down a hill, it would probably using cars, it would probably put 25% of what you used to get up that same hill back into your battery. But every little helps. So, the car itself, really comfortable. Handles quite well, and it's quiet. Sure, there's road noise as you would get in any car. So you'll hear the bumps in the road, you'll hear the tyres running on the road. But other than that, obviously there's no engine noise. So it's very very nice and peaceful and relaxing to drive. I love the comfort. I love a lot of the features in the car. So the reversing camera, the automatic or adaptive rather cruise control. A lot of the other features, lane keep assist, has got MG Pilot. I'm a bit old-fashioned in my driving, so I probably wouldn't use those. I find them a distraction. The sat nav, I know a lot of people complain about it, but I actually think it's great. It works really well. You've also got the opportunity of running navigation from your Android or your Apple iPhone. So I use Android Auto, and I can use Google Maps then, or some of the other charging map apps when I'm on Android Auto. So just a note on the sport mode. The sport mode is quite useful in terms of it makes the car more responsive, certainly when you're on country roads. So I've just switched into sport mode there, and unfortunately today, typical Scottish weather, we are having 4 seasons in one day. So we've had hail, we've had rain, the sun's out for a bit just now. So the road is a bit greasy and a bit slippy, so I'm not going to do anything silly in sport mode. It is easy to do. It will wheel spin if you put the foot down to overtake, or if you want to accelerate off a line when the roads are damp or wet, just I guess like any ordinary car. One thing that is quite interesting on it is the acceleration. So put the foot down and literally you're off. It has torque right from the get-go, so very impressive in that respect. So, temperature's obviously helping today. 13 degrees, a stonking 13 degrees, even though it's sort of middle of May. We've still be getting we still have frosts during the night up here in Scotland. We still have temperatures typically of around 6 degrees, I would suggest, during the day. And today is quite muggy. It's been raining. There's a bit of sunshine. Temperature, the clouds are helping keep the temperature up. And I say up, it's 13 degrees, which isn't fantastic either. However, what that does do is help the battery function a bit better. So whilst I was getting 3.3 earlier, I'm now getting 3.7. Right, so we're just about to arrive at the electrical wholesalers, and got a couple of components to pick up, then we shall be on our way. I'm going to try and sort out this camera shake that's happening here as well, and we'll rejoin you very shortly, and then we'll get on to the motorway and see how well things go there. Right then, that's me done a quick visit into the electrical wholesalers there, got what I needed. I've also fixed, I hope, a bit of problem with the camera shake there, but also with some static that was coming through on the mic, so apologies for that. But we're going to get on our way now, and we'll do a bit of town driving and then on to Motorway. So let's get started up. Press the start button and wait for the bong. Bong, a very faint bong there today. Beep, reversing camera is fantastic in this. Got a really good view. As usual, as you would expect, the lines, guidance lines on the image, on the video image, tells you where you're going to go. So really useful, and we're on our way. Right, so as I said, heading for Dundee. I know I don't have enough because I'm not working from a fully charged car today. I don't have enough charge in the battery to get me all the way to Dundee. Well, it'll get me to Dundee, it just won't get me back again. So I need to consider charging points either on the way or on the way back, or in fact preferably while I'm in speaking to my client up in Dundee. So that job's going to take me about an hour. I reckon about 30-40 minutes of charge is going to be plenty if I can get a rapid charger. Another plenty. One of the things I do like about the charging network in Scotland is that the Scottish Government have invested heavily in a pretty good charging network as is. It's obviously going to get better. It does need to improve, but you know, being Scottish, the other thing that's important to me is that most of the charging points in Scotland, certainly undercharged place in Scotland, are free to use. That is changing. 2 or 3 of the councils, I think Dundee is one of them, Argyll and Bute and Falkirk Council have begun charging for the use of their chargers in Scotland quite recently. But although the price does vary, so the pricing for 1 kilowatt hour of energy varies from about zero. Typical cost at Dundee, I think, is about 15 pence, but that's only if you're using it at a public location. So there are other locations where chargers are positioned, such as the grounds of the university in Dundee, and they're obviously doing some kind of profit share with the university there, so those can be like 25p, 30p per kilowatt hour. So a bit of a mixture. The number of free chargers from other service providers is also increasing. So some Lidl's, some Tesco's, for instance, have not rapid chargers but fast chargers, so typically 7 kilowatt chargers. They are free to use in a lot of places. What I've also seen very, very recently, in fact I've seen them installed, I don't think they're actually in service yet, are some pretty hefty 150 kilowatt rapid chargers, but the costs that they are charging per kilowatt there is kind of cost prohibitive. I think they're maybe trying to get the use of fueling an electric vehicle to be roughly similar per mile to that of a petrol or a diesel engined car. And okay, I know that they're making an investment, they've got investment to be made, but you just wonder where that price is going to go in the future when the demand for electric vehicles and as a result charging stations is likely to increase, and therefore the costs are also cost to use them are also likely to increase too. But getting back to the comfort in the cabin here of the MG ZS EV, there is loads of space. I've commented on the space available in this car, but in particular in the boot for tools and equipment and whatnot, it's absolutely fantastic, perfect for me. But the actual room in the cabin as well is excellent. As you can see, and because we're twin carbs, it means that my twin brother and I enjoy our carbs, so we're not exactly small people, but there is ample room here, and it's all very comfortable as well. I'm mostly driving these days alone, so again, because we're in lockdown, very rarely do I have passengers in the car, so the rest of the space, a bit luxurious really to have that extra space available for me, but it does come in handy from time to time. But quite sure that you can get another adult in the passenger seat here and 2, probably 3 kids, depending on their size and their age, in the back. Heating in the car is okay. I know that a lot of people complain that there isn't an app that you can preheat the car. Preheating isn't necessary because the heat is instant. I know in my previous car, my Jaguar XJR Sport, it was handy, probably on 3 occasions in the 3 years that I owned it, to preheat the car before we went out. But the reason that you needed that was because particularly if the windscreen was frosted up or something, it took 20 minutes for the engine to get to sufficient heat to start defrosting it anyway. So you absolutely do not need to do that in an electric vehicle, certainly not this one. I'm just going to join the motorway here. So I'm in normal mode just now, but I'm just going to slip it into sport mode and a little jerk there as we do. And now we'll put the foot down. Now I'm deliberately running the energy consumption here up to 90%, just to get a bit of acceleration. We're through that. Now sitting at 75 effortlessly in the car. I'm going to slow down and because I'm likely to be coming off the motorway fairly soon. But getting this car up to 75, which 75 miles an hour is probably a natural kind of cruising speed. As you can see, there's certainly plenty of vehicles doing a lot more than that. But it's what I find comfortable. What I do also notice is that whilst the speedometer reads, I'm sitting bang on 70 here just now, and that's on the needle gauge at 70. Let me get that lined up again. 70 on the actual numerical display, it reads 68. So there's obviously a bit of slack in there somewhere. But apart from a bit of wind noise, it is windy today. As I said, it's wet and rainy and hail and all sorts. But it is quite windy, and you will hear the wind in the roof bars, whistling through the roof bars. And I think that's the only reason there are roof bars in this car, I think, is to keep you awake on long journeys. You hear it whistling, which is ideal. So I'm just going to check my consumption. As I said earlier, we managed to get it up to 3.6, 3.7, and there we are. Still sitting at 75. It is still at 3.6. Temperature, although it's got darker and greyer, temperature's gone up a degree, so we're sitting at 14 degrees, and it just goes to show how important it is. The battery temperature is important to maintaining the energy in the battery itself. So getting the battery running more efficiently, and bearing in mind that I'm running with a fairly heavy load in the boot. So all my tools are in there, drums and cable, that kind of thing. So it's not going to, I'm not expecting it to be at full efficiency. So the heating that I was talking about earlier, you don't need the heat is instant, so you don't need to warm the engine up before you get heat. Pro app, as I said, I've had one on my previous cars, 3 or 4 Jaguars I've had in the past, and very, very rarely did I use the app. Sometimes I would check, whether I'd locked the car before I left if I'd forgotten. Other than that, pretty much no use at all. Locating the car, well, it's either at the house or it's parked outside a customer site, sometimes the supermarket car park. If you lose this car in a supermarket car park, then there's a button you can press on the key fob to identify your car. It'll flash the lights or tune the horn. It's all selectable. But anyway, here we are. I've been cruising along at a sedate 70 miles an hour. It's impacting the battery slightly. It's dropped down to 3.5 just now. But, as I said, I'm not expecting miracles. It's still going to get me to where I'm going, and once I'm there, I can charge and do what is necessary to get me home again while I'm in seeing my customer up there. I should add that typically I wouldn't be doing more than, say, 120 miles in a particular day. Today I'll have done about 180, maybe more when I get back, because of the earlier use that I had of the car, plus now trip up to Dundee and back. And this is one of the things that actually attracted me to two electric vehicles really, but the MGZ SEV in particular, that because I'm using the car for business use, when I reconcile my business mileage for the previous 2 years, I think very rarely did I exceed the 120 mile mark. Maybe trips to Ayr or trips up to Dundee, things like that. 160, 180, the very occasional 300 or 400 mile round trip down to maybe Manchester or Birmingham, and then the even more rare occasion of trips down to Norfolk or South Yorkshire to meet with family. So 120 miles seems to be the magic number on a daily basis. Because of lockdown, we haven't been able to do very much mileage at all. I've had the car for 5 months and it's sitting about 3,500 miles. I would normally be doing a lot more than that, but obviously because of the COVID restrictions, it's not been possible. So I am looking forward to doing a long journey or a longer journey, possibly typically 300 miles in a day, unless I do a round trip. So we're talking 550, 600 miles in a day, and it'll be interesting to see whether it is achievable in this car. Now obviously here at Twin Carbs we've got access to quite a number of different vehicles, so I have a choice to make, and if I'm going to go down there and back in one day, let's say to Norfolk or South Yorkshire, I would probably want to not waste much time by replenishing the batteries. I'd probably want to take an iced vehicle for that, internal combustion engine, that is, not a nice vehicle, an ICE vehicle. I'd probably want to take I don't know, it would depend on the purpose of the trip. If I'm just going down there and back on my own, we'll take the Mazda MX-5 or the BMW Z4. If going on taking passengers with me or a lot of luggage, then I've got either the Subaru, I could take the Mercedes, either the SLK or the S-Class, or I could try it in this. I certainly probably wouldn't want to try it in the Triumph Spitfire or the Mini, just for fear of breaking down. Now, breaking down, I have seen quite a few mentions on YouTube and on Facebook about electric vehicles breaking down or perhaps not being able to charge properly. I have to say that in 5 months of ownership, and it is only 5 months and it is only 3,500 miles, I haven't had a single issue with this car. It's been perfect, which also means that I haven't had the need to go back to the dealer. So I don't know what the the service is like from the dealership, which in all honesty was my biggest complaint with Jaguar, with my previous car. It was a great car, but the service I received from the dealership was absolutely shocking. You'll have seen the video. So we're getting very close to my destination now, and what I will do is head for a charging point. I may drop by the customers and drop some tools and equipment off, just in case I need them. I'm pretty sure there is a charging point within a quarter of a mile or something like that, so a few hundred yards. I'll nip down there, put it on charge, and then hopefully by that time we'll have enough to get us back. Right, so we've arrived at the charging station in Dundee. Going to plug in here while I go to my customer meeting and leave it charging. It's on the DC CCC. It's on the DC CCS, hopefully delivering 50 kilowatts, but we'll see when we come back. Okay, well that's excellent. Job done, just under an hour, so 54 minutes, and I'm now up at 91% battery power, plenty to get me home. I noticed that I've received 25.5 kilowatt hours, not quite the 50 that were advertised for an hour, but I know that charging does slow down the closer that you get to that magic 100%. Right then, so that's us back on the road. Customers very happy. I'm happy because I managed to get, sufficient charge to get me back down the road. 82% or something now, so plenty to get me there. I may well do another charge when I'm closer to Ho. There's a couple of rapid chargers about. I do live out in the countryside, so they're about 6 miles away probably from the house, so I can stop off there, top it up again, and then just trickle charge it overnight to give it a bit of a balance, and we shall see what the weather is like when we get back and make the decision based on that. Now then, we're nearly home, so I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. You probably got the impression that I can't rate this car highly enough, particularly for the price that I paid for it. I could have bought 3 of these MG ZS EVs for the price I paid for my previous car, the Jaguar. Road tax on this is 0. Fuel costs are minimal because we are still getting, although I've paid £5 or something to top up today at Dundee, the fuel costs are pretty minimal by comparison to a 3-litre twin-turbo diesel-engined Jaguar. So one other thing that I'm sure is only going to get very occasional use here in Scotland is the panoramic roof. So we've got the visor drawn on it just now, so if I hit this button, that should come back. There we are. All the way back. Now the roof itself does lift and pull all the way back and whatnot as well. I'm not going to do that just now because the weather's kind of temperamental, as you can see from these beautiful views of the dark grey sky above. But it is, quite a handy feature. You got to accept that the car wasn't necessarily designed purely for Scotland. It's I've seen people in Thailand and India and Australia making very good use of their panoramic roofs in those countries in the sunshine, which is fantastic. And I'd like to say that one day in Scotland we'll be able to do that as well. So out in the countryside here, obviously the roads are very narrow, windy, twisty, and actually this is where this car comes into its own because of the KERS, or the regenerative braking. There's a sharp right-hander coming up, and if I lift my foot off the accelerator, I've almost stopped completely before I get to the bend. And if I was in one of my other vehicles, I would probably have had to have used the brakes there, and because you're using the brakes, there's brake pads are wearing. Okay, not excessively, but at every turn, every corner on this particular road, then I go through brake pads on my car probably a set a year. Nasty bump in the road there. On some of the high mileage other vehicles, certainly Jaguar will tell me that I go through a set a year, that's for sure. So thanks for watching. I hope you've found it interesting and informative. If so, please like and subscribe. As I said earlier, absolutely delighted at the number of new subscribers we've had since we started covering the EVs. It's been phenomenal, so thanks again. If you have enjoyed it, then hopefully we'll see you again next time on Twin Carbs.